Welcome friends, it is I, LostScarf, and it's time for the Smite Short Beginner Guide for Ah Muzen Cab. That's right, the B is here and it's time to believe in ourselves. That's right, this guide is of course for beginners, not for advanced or expert players. There's not a lot of information for you guys already know this. This is for beginners who've only played Ah Muzen Cab like a few times and want to get better with him, and this would be a good way to start out. We're going to give information on the abilities, combos, tips, traditionally what you do with him, what stats work well with him, and that should be enough information to jump off of and do well with, and then players will get better in the future as they go. So let's begin. Class and roles. Ah Muzen Cab is a hunter, which means you're generally slow at the start because your basic attacks is what you're great at, and you don't have that built yet because items are needed for it. Later on in the match, as you're building up, you get stronger and stronger with the basic attacks, and you just wreck everything. That's a hunter. Basically, that is what a hunter does. Now, your main role is going to be ADC. You're going to be farming a lot in the long lane, sometimes your support will be helping you out, but for the most part, you're just farming a lot. You only rotate if you really have to, but for the most part, it's just farm, farm, and farm some more. Kills are bonus, it's all about the farm. Second half of the match, when you're built up, you destroy everything with your basic attacks. You are killing gods, towers, objectives, it doesn't matter, everything gets destroyed by your basic attacks. That is why you're farming the first half, because that second half is deadly. Now, as far as advanced and niche, like advanced you can play him in solo lane if for some reason you want to do an ADC mage but you still want a hunter, so you put him in the solo lane because of his good clear and the fact he can regen off his hives and box a little bit. He's pretty good in the solo lane for it if you have to. Now niche you can play him in mid because he has a clear, but that's something you do with friends. That's something to be silly. Ah Muzen Cab's abilities. First up is his passive Bees. What's cool about Bees is it's a damage over time attack. It can be cast through Swarm, Activated Honey, and Stinger attacks. And what's great is it'll spread to anyone who does not have bees on them. So you can hit a whole group with it and just do a little bit of damage to everyone. That's really nice for softening. His first ability is Hives. What's great about Hives is you put it down, you can have 6 of these maximum on the map at any given time. They can only be destroyed by basic attacks. And as long as Ah Muzen Cab is near them, it gives him regen, movement speed, and attack speed buffs. It also activates Honey when it's on the ground. His second ability is Swarm. Swarm is a skill shot in front of him that activates Honey and also casts bees on any enemies that it hits. His third ability is Honey. Now this is an interesting AoE thing that you do. You can put an AoE on the ground, but you can spread it around because Honey gets spread pretty well. And if it's near a hive, it gets activated. If Swarm gets put on it, it's activated, and Activated Honey does damage to any enemies that are on it and also casts Bees passive on an enemy. And lastly is his ultimate, Stinger. This is a skill shot that pierces minions, it'll stop at the first god it hits, and it does bees to them, and it cripples them for 3 seconds. During those 3 seconds, if you don't know what cripple is, they can't dash, they can't jump, they can't do any escapes, so you can just wail on them with your attacks. After 3 seconds ends, the stinger will fall off them, you can pick it back up for an 80% cooldown reduction on your ultimate, which is really nice. But after 4 seconds, if you don't pick it up, it'll disappear. Tips and combos. First up is Ah Muzen Cab is the only left-handed god in the game. He shoots from the left. Everyone else shoots from the center and the right, so you want to keep that in mind so you don't miss certain shots that are going to be very crucial, I am sure. Bunch of hive tips. Keep your hives hidden, of course, that's very obvious, and you can hide them in your purple camp. It has the range to still get to you. Put it behind a tower, and put it in the jungle. You just want to put it in places where it's not easy to hit, so that you can get the regen, the movement speed, and the attack speed, be very useful to you, because of course you also want to have them present during combat, because then you'll just fight better. And of course when you're not in combat, just be near them to regen your HP, because it's always good to be full on health. Lastly, it's not a bad idea to put a hive at the fountain as you're leaving to let you just get out of there a little bit quicker. You have 6 to play with, you got room to do it. And of course, we should talk about his stinger. His stinger is a good cripple, and it's very useful to get that 80% cooldown, but it makes it very predictable when you want to pick it up. So if there's enemies around, don't go for it, you'll get killed. Now, the other thing is, Stinger goes through minions, but not through walls. Swarm and Honey do go through walls, but not Stinger. Keep that in mind when you want to attack an enemy behind a wall. Now, when it comes to combos, here's 3 that are good enough. First one is, if you put Swarm and Honey very quickly, Swarm first, then Honey, you can activate the Honey as you're casting it. It's very useful there, because your bees are still flying over it. So, put out the Swarm, and then choose where you want to put the Honey, and you can cause a lot of trouble with that. Now, when it comes to kill combos, it depends on if your enemy has an escape or not. If your enemy has an escape, you want to beat them up and try to soften them up, and catch them with your Stinger before they consider going for the escape, because you can cripple them, of course. Now you have 3 seconds to beat them up. You can put down Swarm, you can put down Honey, just beat them up as much as you can. If they still get away, if they jump over a wall or just dash away, Honey and Swarm can catch up to them if you didn't use it yet. That's something you can consider. Also, if they're over a wall, they go through walls, so you can take them out that way as well. Now, if your enemy does not have an escape, just dump all your abilities. Put down the Hive for beating them up with your basic attacks, put the Swarm on to beat them up. You can put the Honey now to put more damage on them, or save it for Chase if they get away. And of course, you can hit them with a Stinger if they get a good enough distance from you, which will either finish them off or make them reconsider next time they want to fight you. purchases. Now, Ah Muzen Cab is a hunter, so sprint is kind of required on him. It's really good for getting out of sticky situations and just sticking to people when you really want to beat them to death with your basic attacks. For Ah Muzen Cab, offense is the best defense, but you should at least consider one defensive active. That would be Beads, Aegis, or Combat Blink. Those are just really good to have, especially because he doesn't have an escape, so it just helps him out. But when it comes to beating people to death, the stats you want to focus on are Power, Pen, Crit, Lifesteal, and any weapons with procs that are good to take advantage of for AMC. In conclusion, Ah Muzen Cab is a very strong hunter. He has a very sweet clear that can clear very well for him. It just helps him out, and he can just farm on his own without too much help from his support, so that's really great for him. Later on in the match, he'll just blast guys to death because he just has a really strong boxing potential because of his hives. It's really great. And of course, if you have an escape, you can't really get away from him because he'll sting you and then beat you to death. It's just very nice. Of course, because he lacks an escape, you have to play very smart in positioning and awareness of enemy gods. If you don't, you'll get caught in a bad situation and your wings will be clipped, so be careful of that. This is for beginners, so don't forget to believe in yourself, and you'll do just fine. And as you go, you'll find builds that work for you and your playstyle, and you'll do really well, I'm sure of it. Up next is going to be On Her, and he should be a lot of fun to talk about. We're going to see how the lion roars. He's a hunter as well, and we'll be wrecking things with him. But there you go. That is the guide right there. I had fun with watching, and that is what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.